You can keep that team afloat and maybe go to the wild card, maybe win a
Go
playoff
old
game
school.
with Howell.
Quarterback competition. Play the better player. Why not?
And this guy's on a 5th-round rookie contract. You're not going to get a cheaper backup quarterback. There's no sense in trading Sam Howell. That I think is stupid. What's going on, man?
What's going on, son? Hey, I got a little bit of a warning for the listeners today. Dom's a bit grumpy. Dom is a bit grumpy. He's a bit salty, so
nothing like taking the pre-show meeting onto the intro of the pod. It's Pop's favorite pastime. Good, you got it in. We got it done. I'm out here.
He's angry. He's angry.
Bring an exciting start to the podcast. Be happy, but Pop wants to set the vibe that way. We set the vibe that way. That's fine. Is it too early for me to call scoreboard on the Bada Bets? Is it too early for that? I know we do.
Neither one of us has much to brag about this week.
Is it too early? Well, I'm still spanking you a little bit on the Bada Bets. If we're gonna start jarring, you gotta do it both ways. But hey,
I can take it, son. Can you?
The only one more grumpy than me today is the Commanders fan base, because Lord knows this team has given us just about nothing to be happy about this year. But what we're gonna do, it's the bye week. We're gonna relish in that and enjoy that. But we are going to bring you guys that midweek pod because y'all know you deserve it. That's what we're here for. So we're gonna do that. I'm not really sure how we're gonna handle the scheduling next week. We'll talk about that. We'll make a post. You guys will see. But for now, this Thursday pod is going to be kind of a bye week check-in. We're going to talk a few different topics. We're going to talk vibe check, just see where we're at with this team right now. Spoiler alert, team stinks. Not feeling very good about it. Very much an on to next year type of mentality right now. And for that reason, we're going to talk a few different topics about kind of what we're almost going to play GM a little bit. We're going to play Adam Peters. Maybe that's the name that's been floating around for a potential GM, right? We're going to play GM for a day. We got a couple questions circling around how we're feeling about that. Pop, you got anything you want to add before we get into these questions and start our bye week check-in?
The boys are going to be together in person in SoFi.
Yes, sir.
For the Rams game.
Sir.
That was planned before the season, where we thought it was going to be better circumstances.
Yeah,
we're still going to be wearing the burgundy and gold and representing in SoFi. So stay tuned for some special programming related to that. But no, I think we got some fun stuff on the agenda today to talk about, kind of related to, starting to plan for 2024. So let's get into it. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, so that's kind of the theme for today is, we're on to Cincinnati, and Cincinnati being 2024, we got a little draft talk, we got a little free agency talk, a little roster building talk. We're not going to do the coaching thing right now, because how we feel about it, and we also just know the way it's going to go at this point. So we're not going to do the should.
We're going to have a new GM and a new coach.
Yeah,
we all know that.
It's all over.
Yeah, that's a foregone conclusion.
And we're not going to talk head coaching candidates, because that's maybe for the Black Monday podcast when Ron is relieved of his duties. So subscribe if you guys are looking forward to hearing our view on that, because we're going to give you that in a little bit. Enough pomp and circumstance here. Let's get started. Commanders bye week check-in. Question number 1. Pop, tomorrow you wake up to a message. It's from a 703 area code. You don't recognize it. Like, what's going on here? Is this a telemarketer?
Ashburn.
It says, is this Pop from the Dom and Pop podcast? Give us a call if it is. And you say, it's probably a bot, but let me call. And you call, and you pick up, and it's none other than Josh Harris. It's his new Virginia phone number. It's Josh Harris. He says, Pop, love your analysis, love your breakdown on the Dom and Pop podcast.
Could happen.
Your son, he's so incredibly handsome and good at running that show. And I want to bring you in as a GM consultant. I know you don't want the job as GM, but I want to bring you in as a consultant.
I'll take that paycheck. You kidding?
He's bringing you in as a consultant. He's going to give you a week's worth of pay.
It might be a debacle, but I'll take that job.
Check back in with you in April. But he was bringing in as a consultant, and he says, "Pop, I want to hear from you, from the fans. I want 3 players on the offense and 3 players on the defense you want to keep. How are you drawing that up? What do you got?"
Yeah, so I'm going to give you my three. You want to do three offense each and then three defense each,
Sure, yeah, sounds good.
rather than spread it because I think it'd be good. So offensive side of the ball first. I'll make the
Yeah,
executive decision since we found out that Dom runs the show. Just so we heard that.
MC. Excuse me, excuse me.
uh,
Out of all that,
I
you got
thought
to
we
get the
were a
man.
team and partners, but it's okay. You know, um, I thought I got production credits in the fine print, but
You do,
no.
you
So
do.
the way I look at this is that there's going to be a general theme to my picks. I don't think these guys that were our top performers all of a sudden forgot how to play football. I think this has been a disaster of a year when it comes to coaching and the overall roster building and just game plan and scheme and the way that we've put these guys in position to succeed. So that's going to be a running theme of my thing. I'm almost throwing out 2023, and I'm basing a lot of this on the guys' resumes building up to this. So my three on offense are simple. I'm going to discount quarterback. We got quarterback topic coming up next. So
Like
I'm not
that, I
going to
did the
include
same thing.
quarterback.
Good call.
Not going to include quarterback. You can if you want. I'm not going to do it.
I'm not
Um,
either.
so, like I said, with that, Terry McLaurin, we called him a top 10 receiver coming into the season. I still think he's in that range. I don't think he's forgotten how to play football. I think it's been atrocious the way he's been used or his lack of usage. Him saying that, he had good cardio workout the last game was pretty telling comment from Terry about
From a guy
how
like
unhappy
Terry,
he
right?
is. It said a
Yeah.
lot. But definitely Terry McLaurin is in my top three keepers for the offense. Brian Robertson's just had a monster year and just is the guy, and he has come and played with heart and just improved and has showed burst and has been able to excel as a pass catcher as well as a runner. And I think if this guy had a really good running scheme to work with, and an offensive line that could block, I think he could do some damage. So B Rob is definitely one of my three keepers. And the third one spot was the tricky one. That was a spot I struggled with. And what I really came down to a choice between Antonio Gibson and Curtis Samuel. And I think Curtis Samuel's been our best receiver this year in terms of production. And I think if you keep Curtis, the need to keep AG, and they're both free agents, so this would be a free agent situation. The other two guys are under contract. I'd go Curtis Samuel. I've been really impressed and also been impressed about how similar to B Rob, he's brought it every week and he's put his best foot forward. And I think he's a weapon if used right that can do a lot of damage. So my third is Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, tell you what, we got the exact same top three. I was the same way, and I
Well,
deliberated a
explain
little
why.
bit.
Explain why on your side.
So I'm with you, right? Terry, by the way, Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee announced today.
Oh, that's awesome.
What more
What
do
a
you have to
dude.
say? The kid deserves it. I'm glad he can get something out of this season and he can look back on 2023 and at least be like, hey, that was cool because I mean, for better or for worse, he's been screwed this year in terms of the offensive scheme and the quarterback situation and just what it's meant for him and his numbers and his career. And unfortunately, that translates to money. There's contract incentives, one, and two, when the second deal comes up, people are going to point at this year, and that could impact that, which he doesn't deserve because he has nothing to do with why his production has dipped, in my opinion. Um, so I got him at number one. I just think, Pop, you and I were texting about it, and I agree with you. I think you got 53 men on this roster. You can't just gut all
No,
53. You got to
no.
pay somebody. And Lord knows from the Washington Wizards experience, you don't want to just purge everything and then just grab some guy to pay just for the sake of it. Because look at how that worked out with Jordan Poole, right? So Terry, he's in the building. You're not going to find a better receiver than him on the market. I mean, maybe you go out and you get T. Higgins to complement him, but you're not going to find a better receiver than Terry. If you draft a guy, you're hoping that he turns out to be as good as Terry when he touches the field, and he's got 2 more years on his contract. Why? What are you trading him for? I mean, unless Tyreek Hill becomes available and says he wants to come to Washington, why are you trading Terry McLaurin? It just doesn't make any
No,
sense.
and at this point, he's a bargain for what you're paying for him.
Yeah, the wide receiver
So
market's only going to
no
inflate.
reason, no
Yeah,
reason
I'm
to.
with you.
Yeah,
Because Jefferson's got to get paid this offseason. Chase is going to have to get paid in a couple of years. So let's keep Terry in the building. Number 2, Brian Robinson, for me, has been the best offensive player on a week-to-week basis on this
agree.
team. There's nothing left to be said. I think he's shown incredible talent, and I think with the right usage and, like you said, the right scheme, I mean, Lord, you put that guy behind the Lions' offensive line and in that system, I don't think I've watched a lot of Lions football. I've watched a lot of Commanders football. I don't think talent-wise there's a huge disparity between him and David Montgomery, and look at the numbers David
I
Montgomery's
think he
putting
could
up.
be better than David Montgomery.
I think they're very similar types of
Yeah,
backs too. Um,
yeah,
and I think that would be what I would like to see B-Rob hit next year, production-wise in the right scheme. And then Curtis Samuel, number 3.
maybe with a certain
There's
head coach.
perhaps with the same
Perhaps,
guy, perhaps. And
perhaps.
then Curtis Samuel at number 3 for me is a no-brainer because just off the simple fact the wide receivers have struggled across the board this year, but Curtis is like top, maybe not top 5, but top 10 in the league in separation right now for wide receivers, and he's shown it, and he's getting
Impressive.
open, he's making plays, and he is, say what you will about Terry and Jahan, who was the other guy I was debating with in this slot. Um, but and I'll get to that in a second. But say what you will about them two, but Curtis Samuel, ball in hand, open field, is about as dangerous as anybody who's not Tyreek Hill in the league. Like he is
Yep,
a very dynamic, very fast, very shifty guy. He hasn't just lost that overnight because he's not getting a ton of targets. And I think I've been saying it since we got him, but I think you mix Curtis and B Rob in the run game and you run Curtis in almost like a Debo Samuel style
agree.
um,
Which
role,
we've not seen at all.
which we saw under the last coordinator, and for whatever reason we don't see under EB anymore, which doesn't make any sense, whatever. Um, Terry out on the outside. Maybe you add one more piece of wide receiver or John Dotson, who I'll get to in a second. Maybe he steps up. But it's a you know, it's a no brainer for me on Curtis. Jahan I did not include because frankly I just have to be honest, I have to see more. I mean, we crowned this guy Randy Moss after missing 6 games last year and scoring a handful of touchdowns. And this year he's been complete disappearing act. And I don't want to just put it on him. I understand the system hasn't helped him, but also at the same time, Jahan has been targeted and had several serious drops, key drops that could have blown games. So I need to see him turn it around. He's on a rookie deal. We're going to see him again next year, unless he gets traded. But I don't think at this point his trade value has to be in the can. Um, so we're going to see more of Jahan. So he just wasn't as exciting for
Right.
me to include in the top 3, I guess. But let's get back to let's go
He's
defense.
kind of the headliner of who didn't you include. I mean, I'm shocked you don't have O lineman in there. I've thought for sure you'd be dropping an
Yeah,
Andrew Wiley in your top 3, but
yeah. I mean, yeah. It's just those 58.4 PFF ratings really get me going every week. I love what we're doing on the O line. Um, but let's get into the defense, Pops. Try and
you go
do
first
this one
because
a little bit quicker.
I took your top 3 away. So
All right,
just
I'm gonna go
in the
first on the
sake of
defense.
fairness, you should be free for the top 3 defense. I think we might have some disparity on this one. Just got to feel it.
There might be, and I tell you what,
Yeah,
I had a hard time picking 3. I had 2, and then I threw in a third as a de facto, who I also think is a victim of a circumstance in the scheme right now. But I have my 2, and I have a notable that I did not include. So my 2,
I know
this
you
kind of
didn't
goes
include. I'm going to
goes
predict
without
it.
being said. We've talked about this. I got Deron Payne at number 1. He's been my favorite defensive player on this team for a couple of years now. That's my guy. I think under the right scheme, we see him get back to what he was doing last year. Even if he can just split the difference, he's still a top 10 defensive tackle in the league, and you just paid him a bunch of money, so he ain't going anywhere. Number two, Cam Curl up for contract. He is not a safety that wins you a championship, but he is a safety that can play on a championship team. And so keep him around. He's in the building. He's not going to be that expensive. Just do it. Number three, Kendall Fuller. Same thing. Probably not your cornerback one. Probably not the cornerback that wins you a championship. However, he is a solid, solid, solid football player. If he would like to stay here, I want him here. He can play at the slot. He can play safety. He can play on the outside. There's nothing the guy can't do. Bring him back. And hopefully, a little bit of a veteran presence, mentor some of these young DBs that, for better or for worse, we're stuck with for the next 3 years. Hopefully, we can start to get something out of these guys. Kendall at number three. Obviously, notable, not included, John Allen. If John Allen doesn't want to be here, let him go. We're going to have to redo his deal. I don't even want to deal with that controversy or think about it. I'm also, frankly, sick of his press conferences every week talking like he's the head coach. You're the captain of a team that sucked for 7 years. You had no problem signing the contract to stay around again. You've been on more bottom 10 defenses than you have been top 10 defenses here. You're a good player. You're playing hurt. I understand. But if you don't want to be here, just go. I'm not mad at it either. And we are paying a lot of money at that defensive tackle position. I would love to keep him around, but he hasn't kept the performance up this year to match. His performance in the press box has outweighed his performance on the field. And for me, that just doesn't excite me at this point in my fandom. So I'd love to have him around, and I'd love to have the old John Allen around, who you don't hear him talk much, and he's just balling. I miss that guy. We can get him back. Maybe you sit him down and you have a conversation with him, with the new coach or the new GM, and you say, "Hey, man, where are you at? Do you want to be here or do you not?" And if his answer is yes, I want to be here. I know it might take us a couple years to get going. Sure, but if not, he's out. So I left him out of my top three for that reason, and that's my top three on defense. And that's where I'm at. Pup, take it away.
No, it's good, and I completely understand. I think a lot of the John Allen stuff got taken out of context. I listened to the interview, the entire interview, and he was asked questions, and he answered them honestly. He also said, "I want to be here. I want to win
Yeah,
here." What he said was, if we're about to go through a rebuild, I mean, the guy's about to turn 29, 30. He said, if they're tearing it down and rebuilding, I'm not necessarily interested in bottoming out, and you can't really
yeah.
blame him for that.
And
So I get
that's
it,
just like a
but he's
competitor's
only got. Well,
thing.
I think he's only got 1 year left of his contract after
That's
this
the
year.
other
So,
thing. If we're gonna get into
so
a
it's
whole, I don't want to play unless I get an extension thing. Just let him go, in my opinion.
yeah.
But go ahead.
So anyway, having said that, and again, I'm going on the theme of, and I like to Kendall Fuller take, and he's not on my list, but I do think one thing. It's hard for me to put any quarterbacks on the list, but you've probably heard his name called the least in terms of the guy that's getting burned or torched. Maybe he should be covering the best receiver on the other team rather than Quan Martin, but I don't know. But yeah, I mean Kendall's a solid professional. Um, but my top three, again, I'm just going to go into like they didn't forget how to play football, and I think generally you touched on earlier, and it was a great point by you. General philosophy, I'm not looking to blow this team up. I think John Allen's contract is a bargain at this point. Even Deron Payne, it's a solid deal. He makes a
It was
lot
a
of money,
bargain when
but
he signed
but
it. Yeah,
it's escalating now. So let's keep good football players in the building, and let's try
100%.
to. And we've got plenty of salary cap plays. And by the way, you don't need to tear it down all in 1 year. You can make decisions year to year as you go. If you've got good ball players, what's a third round draft pick for Deron Payne really get you? Nothing. Nothing. It's a 50-50 shot at a player that might contribute. Let's keep the good football players in the building. And I enlighten it. You mentioned the Wizards. Keeping a Kyle Kuzma around, you got to have some good ball players in your
Yeah,
team, even if you're rebuilding. So, having said that, I got Deron Payne, I got John Allen. I want the dynamic duo
I
with
like
good
it.
coaching to come back and ball out like they've been able to do in the past. I think that they've been double teamed quite often, especially since the trade. And yes, you could argue they should be able to overcome that, but there's only so much two men can do on that defense. You could argue that there's probably only 3 or 4 starting caliber players on that defense, and these are two of them that are capable of being all
100%.
pros.
Yeah.
Okay. And then for me, I was debating this third one, and I just went back to my theme, and I've repeated it a couple times already. People just didn't forget to play football, and maybe it's not Cam Curl's best year, but man, he balled out the last couple. And I just don't think he's
Yeah.
forgotten to play ball. I just think our coaches have forgotten how to coach. So I'm keeping Cam Curl. I'm re-signing him. I think he's a very good football player. And you know what? Maybe we don't have great or elite guys on this team, but I'll take very good right now to build around that. And hopefully we can have a quick bounce back and a quick rebuild. Now, I believe that's what this ownership group is thinking about. I think they
Yeah.
want butts in seats, and I don't think they're looking for a full teardown of the situation.
I don't think I agree with you 100%. I don't think it's necessary, and I don't think. I mean, just look at the league, man. There's not the Jaguars 3-13 under Urban Meyer, wild card team next year. The Bengals terrible. Burrow's first year in contention for the bowl next year. Like this is a league that moves so much faster. The Lions, awful, won 8 straight, went 9-8 to end the year, and then this year looking like one of the stalwarts of the NFC. This league moves fast. So I wouldn't get particularly hung up on this taking 4 or 5 years. I agree with you. And I think the encouraging thing is some of these guys, like we've mentioned, are already here. A couple problems are already solved. We don't need to go creating more problems for us to solve right now. And we have plenty of draft capital already making the moves we made for Chase and Montez. So let's move on. Number 2, how do we feel about quarterback? Should we draft a quarterback? Where are you at with Sam? We're headed for a top 5 pick. What do you like?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep this quick. I'm predicting right now that we are going to draft a quarterback. I just think if we
Me
get in
too.
that top 5, and I think it's just going to happen. And I think if you're a GM, the pressure that you're going to have being a new GM on this team, if you think you've got a generational type talent whose measurables are better than Sam Howell's, you got to take a
Yeah.
shot at it. And you know what? You still got Sam Howell in the building. You know, some people say you automatically got to trade him. I don't agree 100% with that. But I think if you got an opportunity to draft a guy, you're going to have to do it. And me personally, I am totally fine going into next year with Sam Howell. I am
Yep.
totally
Me
fine
too.
with it. But I think
Well,
it's
I don't
going
know
to
about
be
me too, but
tough that if there's a quarterback there, especially if you slip into that third spot in the draft, I think a GM's going to do it. And I think if I was in that GM role, if I was in the building and I had the suit on, which you know what, I'm open to accepting calls. Call
you
my
look
agent.
good in a suit, Pop. You look good
I
in a
do look
suit.
good in a suit. I do look good in a suit. Um, I you know, we have to be practical about it. We all love Sam, but there's been some good and there's been some not so good if we're really being honest about it. And I think that, you know, when I look at Sam and I'm trying to be more realistic about it, I look at a guy who's just a bit undersized that just plays his guts out. He's probably a little bit better version of a Baker Mayfield
I was
type,
just about to say
you
that.
know,
Great comp.
which isn't bad, isn't terrible, can start for you, can win some games for you. But you got an opportunity at top elite type talent. You can't just look away and turn away from
Yeah.
that, right? You shouldn't reach for a guy. But in reality, I believe, and I'm predicting right now, I think we're going to draft a QB. So that's what I think is going to happen. And I think any GM in that spot is going to do it. Sounds like you're in agreement. So
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you on that. I mean, just looking at real quick
I
at
hate
Tankathon
it,
right now,
but
I don't hate it, frankly. At Tankathon right now, we're looking at number 4. Chicago, you just don't know what they're going to do at quarterback if they end up rolling with Justin Fields. Maybe they end up trading that pick and getting a Lions ransom for whoever wants Caleb Williams. Maybe they just stay there and they take Marvin Harrison Jr. and they get Fields as elite weapon, whatever. But Chicago needs a quarterback. New England needs a quarterback. Arizona might not go quarterback. That probably will not go quarterback, would be my guess. I think Kyler's been
I think
decent since he's been
Arizona will
back.
go quarterback. What
Then
I
I don't
think could
know.
happen with Arizona is that Kyler's not going to tank. So Kyler might win enough games. We slide
That they
into
get
that
out of
number
there
3
and we get
spot.
into that third spot. Well, if we're at that third spot and you're looking at Penix Jr. up in Washington has been a stud. You're looking at Drake May. Maybe he ends up being a guy there. Who knows what happens with Caleb Williams, but I'm pretty sure that guy's going to go number 1 overall. You're looking at some elite talent, and especially Drake May is a guy that I think if he's there and we don't sprint to the podium to draft him, I'm already worried about our GM. And I want to say that to all of you who are saying we should trade Sam immediately, what are we going to do? Get a 5th rounder for the guy and not have a backup and not have somebody to compete and not have somebody to maybe run the offense for a year while Drake May gets ready? We don't have to just immediately stick him in to the lineup right off the bat. You
Right.
know, we could get a guy, let him sit for a year, let Sam run the team, compete, and then maybe at the end of the year we can trade Sam for a 3rd
You
round
ain't
pick instead
sitting
of
a
a
guy.
5th.
You ain't sitting a guy you pick in the top 3. That's not happening.
It's happened a lot, but
That's not happening.
it's happened a
Not
lot.
not
It
not
depends
in
on this.
today's NFL.
It depends on the situation you're in. But anyways, Bryce Young maybe should have sat for a year. But like I said, it depends on the situation you're in. Maybe that's something you want to do. And also, ask Kyle Shanahan about if he should have traded Jimmy Garoppolo
But
or if he should have
it's
got rid
not
of
a
Brock
matter of
Purdy.
whether it's the right thing to do or a wrong thing to do. It's a matter of will teams do that in today's day and age, and they won't.
I'm
It's just
not
not
look.
going to happen.
That's fine. That's fine.
You're
That's
right. It
fine.
might
I
be the
get it.
right
We're
thing to
spending,
do.
but
It might
we're
be the
getting
right
too
thing to
into
do.
that. We're getting too into that.
Right.
My point
Right.
is, when you have Howell there, you have options, and Drake May rolls his ankle. Drake May,
Well,
God forbid, has a more serious injury. You can keep that team afloat and maybe go to the wild card, maybe win a
go
playoff
old
game with
school. The
Howell.
quarterback competition. Play the better player. Why
And
not?
he's not. You're not. This guy's on a 5th round rookie contract. You're not going to get a cheaper backup quarterback. There's no sense in trading Sam Howell. That I think is stupid. You want to say maybe he's not the starter? I agree with you. The way I would sum up
I
Sam
agree.
right now, Sam hasn't been the problem, but he's not the solution either for this team. He's not that elite guy like CJ Stroud that can just lift your team out of the abyss, and he's also not hurting the team. He's right in the middle. And right now, if we want to rebuild this thing fast, we need that elite. So you take a crack at it when you get a chance at it. But I'm
He
about
gives
ready to
you
move on if
options
you are,
because if you
Bob.
don't go quarterback and you go elite O line or you go, your dream pick there at receiver, um, you got a
It's an
quarterback
overstatement,
that
but
has potential. So,
yeah.
yep. So, yeah, we
Yeah,
got some breaking. We got a little bit of breaking news here, son.
yeah,
So I'll
a little
set
bit
you
of a
up for
pivot,
that.
little bit of a pivot here. We were going to talk next 4 games, but honestly, what can you ask for? You want to see the team win. You also don't want to hurt the draft position. There's nothing to talk about there. So instead, Pa, what do you make before we get into the Bada Bets here? Just real quick, what do you make of these Eric Bieniemy head coach of the Chicago Bears rumors right
It's interesting because I was listening to B Mitch and Finley shout out there to those
now?
guys.
Always.
Always love listening to them. And they were actually talking about. They had somebody on. I can't remember who was actually talking about the perception of Eric Bieniemy coaching up the best, the guy who's got the most passing yards in the league as a rookie. Maybe there's a little bit of a different perception about him out there than we feel from the inside. Um, and it's interesting that, on that same day, you start to hear these rumors about the Bears are targeting EB as head coach. Hey, good for EB. I hope he does get the opportunity. But I just don't want it to be here.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way. I just think you can't look at what's happened in the last year. I don't feel too dissimilar about EB than I do Sam, except for the fact that I think there have been cases where EB has been the problem. And I think I tweeted it today from our account. There were some questions running around, and a guy's account we always like, Disco on Twitter. He's always kind of talking about different topics and just kind of always keeping the conversation relevant and positive, which I like. And he's kind of saying, hey, remember when Shanahan was here, his first year, people weren't super high on his his play calling and super blown away by him. Same with KOC. Like these guys weren't revered until they left. So maybe there's an argument for EB there because EB has been handed such a difficult situation, which I don't necessarily disagree with. But my response was if we get a Brian Johnson, offensive coordinator for the Eagles, if we get a Bobby Slowick, offensive coordinator for the Texans, if we get a Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator for the Lions, I'm going to root for Eric Bieniemy as head coach of the Chicago Bears and also really be happy with my top 10, top 5 offense that I have over here. Just because we hit, as long as we hit on an offense next year, I don't care if it's Eric Bieniemy, and he's kind of proven this year that we at least should look elsewhere and consider other options. So if Eric Bieniemy does go be head coach of the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams and him win 5 Super Bowls, great. I hope we can get a few Super Bowls in between with Ben Johnson and Drake May because I think that's what will happen. But
no, and I just think maybe it's just been such a painful season, and maybe EB, could be a decent option. It's just to me, I just feel like I get the fact that maybe you came into the season with what mindset about the weapons we had and maybe the ability of the offensive line, but the slowness in which we adjust and adapt. And I do believe, EB deserves a lot of credit for the success that Sam has had. But I also think there was an alternate approach to bringing along a young quarterback rather than throwing him into the deep end. Because you know what you did? You threw your team into the deep end too. And
that's a
that's
great
what
take.
I think. That to me is what is a bit irresponsible about the approach that we've had on offense, for lack of a better
Yeah,
word. But doesn't mean that EB can't learn from this experience. It seems like he's already trying to adapt and he's already trying to learn, but the wheels have come up the cart, you
yeah,
know? And it's tough to try to save a sinking ship. If you know the coaches are gone and you're not sure if what your future is, it's tough to get up to play a football game,
yeah,
you know. And I don't think that's a lack of purposeful effort, but it's like if you work at a company that is going bankrupt. It's hard to
yeah,
get up to go to work every day and be at 100%. And I think that's what
yeah.
a lot of these guys are going through. But yeah, I wish him well. Interesting rumor. And like I said, good for him. And we'll see what happens. I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe that creates a bit of a spark, creates competition, and we decide we can't lose him. Who knows?
Bottom line is, from all accounts, Class Act has handled his time in Washington with grace. And personally, for myself, Eric Bieniemy, the person, I wish nothing but the best. If should he be leaving
Agreed.
Washington, and I thank him for coming here and giving it a shot with a resume like his. He had to have had some options, and you know didn't work out. Didn't work out. That's fine, but he deserves a shot somewhere, and I hope it works
But
out for
you
him.
look
I
at
just don't
the
think it
rest.
has to be here.
You look at the rest of the schedule, and you never know any given Sunday, but maybe like the best possible case scenario is a 6-11 football team. If we go
Yeah,
500 the rest of the way, any coach on a 6-11 football team getting a job, given the rating of our offense and the lack of performance, and again, he was
it's
handing a
happened, but
horrendous defense to partnership. It's hard to imagine. But
I don't
again,
disagree with
I
you.
think Sam Howell is a what he's done with Sam as viewed around the league is probably a lot more positive than we're viewing on the inside because it's a 4-11 football team. So
Yeah,
speed,
yeah,
not around.
that's the bottom line. But yeah, let's go through this Bada Bets lightning round. So,
We might as well go
Pop,
fast because we suck at going slow
yeah,
through it.
we were both last week. We were both 1-4. Pop on the year 32,
Tanking.
34 and 4. Me on the year 35, 31 and 4. Pop got out to that 2-0 start, and it's been slow since, kind of moving like the Commanders.
This is the story of my 2023 season. I came out hot in fantasy and I've been eliminated already in
Yep.
fantasy. I just absolutely tanked. Commanders came out hot 2-0. We all know what happened there. I was
Ugh.
on fire, couldn't miss in the bets, and I've just been tanking since. So sorry, people, if you've
Tough.
been betting along with me,
Mi
don't do it.
dispiace. Mi
Me
dispiace.
dispiace.
So Thursday night football, Patriots. I got +6 here at the Steelers. What do you like there, Pop?
So it's Steelers favored by 6. I
Yeah,
I like the Steelers here.
yeah, I like the Steelers as well. Well, no Kenny Pickett is the other, or
I
Kenny
don't know how
Pickett's at
much that
least
hurts.
questionable. Yeah, well, Mitch Trubisky's the backup, so we'll see. But the Patriots
I don't
also
think
don't have a
that's a I
quarterback.
don't think that's an outrageous drop off.
I don't either.
No.
Lions -3 at the Bears. This is an interesting one, Pop. Only 3 points for the Detroit Lions against their division rival, the Chicago Bears. Is Montez Sweat swinging that line for you? What do you think?
Lions.
Yeah, Lions here for me as well. Bills +2.5 at the Chiefs. What do you like, Pop? Bills have kind of struggled, but this is a classic matchup.
Two weird football teams
Yeah,
this year. But I'll
yeah.
go
Chiefs have
Chiefs.
struggled
Chiefs at
too.
home. Only
Here's the
giving
thing:
up 2.5. I go Chiefs.
Bills have
And they need this
struggled.
game.
Yes, Bills have struggled, but they haven't found a way to win. Chiefs have struggled, and they've still found wins at the end of most of their games. I'm going Chiefs. Sunday night football, Eagles +3.5 at the Cowboys. What do you
Ooh.
like there, Pop?
So Eagles 3.5 point favorites on
I'll tell you.
the
I'll go
road.
first here. I'm taking the Eagles. I'm taking the Eagles. They're not going to get spanked like that twice in a row. This is at least going to be a close game, and I think the Eagles are going to
Now
give it to the
Eagles won the
Cowboys.
first battle between the two of them.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick with my head, not my heart, and I'm going to go Cowboys.
Wow. I see.
I just there's this thing about the Eagles. They've been winning a lot of close games. Look at our 2 games against them. Really good football team, but so are the Cowboys. Much as I hate to say it,
Yeah.
and to sweep a team when you're that close as the two of those teams are isn't easy. And Cowboys
Yeah.
are home. Eagles coming off a tough loss. I, I just I'm gonna go Cowboys on this one. I got to
I
zag a
just
little bit with you too.
That's fair. That's fair. And this could be a good place for you to get a game back. I just don't see the Eagles losing the way they lost to San Francisco and not coming out here and just
I
I
hate
don't
both
think it's
those teams, but
necessarily
it doesn't
a
matter.
Cowboys thing as much as it is. I tell you what, I hate both of those teams, but I cannot wait to watch that game. I mean, rolling that Bills game into the Cowboys game, right? Back to back is gonna be
Pretty
slick.
sweet.
I might not stand up for like 7 hours other than to hit the
Pretty
freaking moon.
sweet.
But Monday Night Football doubleheader. Packers -6.5 at Giants. What do you like there, Pop?
I go Packers there.
Yeah, I like the Packers as well. My boy Jordan Love slinging it. Dad, this one is nuts. Titans +13 at the Dolphins. What do you like?
So Dolphins favored by 13.
Yeah.
I gotta go Dolphins.
I'm going to zag here, and I'm going to go Titans because I'll tell you why. The
Dolphins at
Cowboys,
home. Greatest show on
Dolphins at
turf.
home. Dolphins at home. I'll give you that. No, I'm going Dolphins. I'm going Dolphins.
Come on,
I
son. The
I can't.
Paulina's on the table.
No, 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 no. Those are bad Paulinas. I can't do that. I can't do that. I got to go Dolphins there. It's just
You
the
got any hair on
Tennessee.
those beaches?
Now, when it comes to Tennessee's secondary, I don't. Tennessee's secondary is awful, and that's like I've looked into that because that's where our DB's coach went, and everybody wanted to act like that was the problem with the defense, and it wasn't Ron Rivera. And I was like, yo, Tennessee's defense also sucks. So they didn't get any better getting Chris Evans either. God bless him. So I gotta go Miami here just because I'm remembering how bad Tennessee's defense is. But worth noting, the Cowboys smacked the smacked us 2 weeks ago, and then they went to play the Seahawks on Thursday night, and they did not cover. And the Seahawks played them close most of that game. So I was kind of thinking that way with the Tennessee thing, but 13 is a
I
lot.
don't know
If
what
it
that
was
has
like
to do with this game.
because the Dolphins smacked us, and now they're going to play Tennessee, and they're the highest favorite team of the week. Is the exact same thing that happened last week. Do the science. I'm going
Okay.
Miami, but watch out for that one. Watch out for that one. Miami's going to win by 40 now that I said that, but watch out for that. Shall we?
Yes. Let's wrap it.
Without further ado, I've been Dom.
This is Pop.
Thanks for another great week, guys.